What's up, guys? Today we have a challenge from Plarium to the content creators that is in regards to PvP. So how could I refuse to participate? This is definitely down to my alley. Let's take a look at the rules and then I'll get into it in detail. I have some actual points of this video, but give me a second. The challenge rules: fight 10 Classic Arena opponents using a team that must consist of only rebalanced champions from the list below. So we have a very narrow pool of champions, and clearly the point of this contest is to promote all of the reworks and buffs and nerfs that we have been getting by Plarium recently, or not so recently, because some of these nerfs and buffs, or I mean this list is only buffs, but some of these were quite a while ago actually. But it doesn't include all of the champions that have been buffed, because that would be a massive list. Your goal: score as many victories as possible. Winners shall be determined by the number of victories and average battle time. Only rebalanced champions from the list. No mythicals. You can change the team between your opponents. Gold or platinum. We're doing platinum. No dupes in the team. You cannot fight opponents with fewer than 4 champions or low level chickens in defense. You have to refresh your list of opponents at least once on camera. We're gonna do it at the beginning. You can't use the test server for this challenge, and you must use your own account. Now let's go to the list of champions that are available on this competition. I kind of went out of my way to highlight the champions, so the green ones are that I have, and I have them at 6 star. Yellow ones I also have, but I haven't leveled them up to 6 star for obvious reasons, them being trash champions and not worth using in anything. Let's be honest, I don't really like to level up champions that I'm not gonna use. I mean, you can argue that some of these could definitely be used for Faction Wars 21 hard these days. Maybe I will level up King Garrock potentially, and if you have other suggestions, I am all ears. But in regards to the champions that I actually have and that are 6 stars, so I could realistically use them, would be Xenogenesis, kind of a weird support champion that I think was a fusion at one point. And he's a pseudo lockout. He's basically the only lockout champion on my account, though his lockout is maybe a little bit weaker than some others. It will only lock out one champion, but if they have dupes of the same one on their team, it would lock out all of them. Now imagine if the buff was that they actually gave him a proper lockout, then people might actually use him in game. Sadly that's not the buff, but I will give a shout out to Xenogenesis, that Xenogenesis actually had kind of niche use in Classic Arena at one point on like a very scuffed accounts. Like people actually used him in top Platinum Arena. Not the really good accounts, but some of the more scuffed ones. During the time where basically every top defense team was double Taras, Marichka and then one more. You could lock out a Taras and then lock out both of them. And you also had buff strip and a passive that kind of kept him alive. So he was kind of semi-viable, and people did actually use him in Platinum Arena, which is, you know, kind of crazy considering how trash champion Xenogenesis is. Second on the list that I might use is Mountain King. Now Mountain King actually also has seen use in Platinum Arena, but this was like 5 years ago when Platinum Arena was new. He was basically the only HP scaling nuker in the game at that point. I mean, there were other ones like Nicholas, but none of them did any damage at all. This was way before the times of Taras and HP and defense scaling champions. In the early days of Raid, there was few defense and HP scaling champions, but they didn't do any damage at all, and basically only attack scaling champions had any potential to do damage. But he was even good before the buff during his time. Now his buff is actually pretty good, I kind of like it. I sometimes actually use him because I don't have better options, and I already had him geared even before this video. Definitely not up to par against the mythics and the current meta and the power creep in the game, but we'll get to it in a second. Then we have a Smashlord, obviously complete trash champion in relation to PvP I mean. For PvE, when when Hydra was new, there was some niche teams that used him because he can do taunt and he does have AoE decrease attack. Now, in today's standards, he's, garbage for Hydra, but when it was new, he was kind of semi-viable. Some of the really, let's say like bad or like not top tier accounts, some of them might have used it. I used it, bunch of other people did, but obviously he wasn't like actual top tier, but he was relevant at the time. Then we have Hakkorhn. He has never seen any use anywhere in any content of the game, and I think he was either one of the original champions when Raid released, or he was added really early, like in the first months of the game or something. Because I remember Hakkorhn from eons ago. I got him, I don't remember when, but maybe 6 years ago I got him. He had a weird, he had probably the worst damage skill in game. I don't recall how exactly it worked, but something along the lines that he does 50% of his max HP as damage to himself, and then he does damage to enemies based on that, except that you can't crit, and it calculates the enemy, defense and damage mitigation into it as well. It was literally the worst skill that Raid has ever come up with. The mechanics on it didn't make any sense. It was a massive screw up. Not to roast Plarium too much, because I'm gonna get to, some positives in a second. And then finally we have Queen Eva. And again, her buff was kind of long time ago. I feel like it was way more than a year ago when she got buffed. She is kind of good. I mean, on her A2, she's not a mythic champion, she's not tanky. It's very hard to use that kind of champions in the current meta, but she is one of the hardest hitting champions in the game if you don't add all kinds of caveats that, you need to have buffs and you need to have decreased defense and so on. As a standalone nuker, she can do 600k damage on her A2. It's actually crazy damage. It's a double hitter that hits so hard that even if the enemy has something like UDK, he can just take one hit to Stone Skin and you're gonna kill your target with the other hit anyway, because it's gonna hit 200k or even more than that. It has a 50% ignore defense, which, as you guys know, is the biggest deal to get damage in PvP, and you can get more defense ignore from Helm Smasher and item sets like Lethal, so you can basically often get to 100% with her. Also, a nice benefit is that all of her skills need 15% less crit rate, so you don't need to build it fully. And she also has a passive that gives crit rate. These kind of auras don't really get used, but you could even build her with less crit rate than that. I didn't build my team around it. Also, AoE is kind of too good. It will reset the cooldown of the A2 if you get a kill. I wouldn't say that it's like a PvP champion with all the mythics and the buster things going on in the game. When she was buffed, I was actually using her a lot in live arena, and she was kind of good at the time. You could still use her in a speed team, but it's still probably better to use something like Marius that is gonna get rid of the enemy stone skins and stuff. But if you have multiple champions that do that in a speed team, you could definitely still use her. She's, I would say, out of the champions on the list, let me double check the ones that I don't have. She's probably the most most close to being like relevant in PvP. She's kind of almost almost relevant. I wouldn't say relevant, but she could be used in a right team. Now, what I would say about this, you know, Plarium has actually, I want to give credit to Plarium. They have been doing very nice job in the last year. They have definitely changed their tune. I don't know if you guys remember, but like around, I want to say 1 to 2 years ago, somewhere around that time, there was like Eon, maybe like, I don't know, 8 months without any buffs or very long time. Content creators were complaining about it a lot, and so was all of the players complaining to the content creators and community managers and so on. They promised that next year will be more buffs, and they did it. I mean, I would always want more rebalancing, and by the way, I would want the nerfs too, not just buffs. Like, okay, here's a little bit rant against Plarium. If there is something that helps players, you know, I don't want to get too negative, but if there is something that is really good on Hydra, like whatever is the rare champion that does shields, I can't remember its name. If something like that exists, obviously Plarium is gonna nerf it, but if something like Taras and Maritska is ruining the game or PvP for 2 years in a row, they're not gonna nerf them, and they're only finally gonna nerf them when they release something more OP and like power creep the game more and make people wail them. Now, that being said, I think Plarium in the past year, and even a bit more than that, they have done a lot of buffs, so I will give credit to them. Most of them are not relevant, but there has been some relevant ones, and even the less relevant ones that doesn't make a champion like actually viable in top tier PvP. It's still nice, it helps in faction wars, and I'm sure some buff champions were actually like became good in PvE. That's not really something that I think about, but I'm sure there is numerous examples that elude me at this moment. But I do appreciate that Plarium has been doing buffs, and I think it's great. Also, all of the numerous quality of life updates that have been happening in the last year, like tavern updates, free item swap, item presets and so on, those have made the game much more enjoyable and playable. But let's be honest, this list of champions, like obviously the purpose of this competition is to highlight the boss and show them in PvP. Now, none of these are actually viable in PvP, and as you saw previously in the rules of the list, you could do this in Gold or Platinum Arena. Now, I'm gonna keep it real, and we're gonna do this after Platinum Arena reset. I'm gonna make another video later explaining the new Platinum Arena after the first time it happened. Basically, Classic Arena reset already happened, but it's not over yet. We're gonna still play battles, but we shouldn't be able to move in and around rankings. But we didn't get our Platinum just yet, or anything like that. So I'm basically locked into Plat. And let me show you the team that I'm gonna whip out. So this is the team that I landed on. Let me just where is it? Oh, did I already click it out? FBI, open up! Give me a second. I'm not gonna edit that out. This is kind of late of my time, but I forgot about this competition, so I have to do the video, but I'm too tired to actually edit parts of the video, so we'll keep it raw. But here was the list of the champions and what I have on the green. Not too many options, as you can see, and maybe if there was something really good on the yellow list, I would have leveled them to 6-star, but nothing seemed that crazy. Like, there's not a lockout here, there's no Mythic champion, so it's not gonna get much better than what I'm running. So what we ended up going is 2 nukers, Mountain King and Eva. Both of them are actually kind of good. Like, I would say they're fun champions, very hard hitters, great for Faction Wars 21. If they are, you know, if they are relevant in Platinum Arena, you can tell me after this. Now, Smashlord and Elegaius, we were kind of running out of options, and I was getting a little bit, you know, desperate in the available champions. Elegaius is a buff tripper and technically lockout champion. We have him in like a fast build. Hakkorhn, I just threw him in bolster because he's not gonna really do anything, so maybe he can be a little bit like a fat wall to me and maybe make Mountain King able to take a hit or two with his massive base HP. Now Mountain King and Eva are in like decent gear. Eva has 4P Stone Skin because obviously she's not a tanky champion and she nukes hard, so if she gets a turn and we get to hit somebody that is not Stone Skin and we're not weak hitting on it, it's definitely gonna die to the A2. Mountain King, kind of likewise, not as hard hitting as Eva's A2, but Eva's A2 is kind of like, I would say basically the hardest hitting skill in the game on a single target without those added conditions like decreased defense on enemy and so on. But Mountain King A2 hits hard. His buff was actually good. He gets extra turn if he kills on A2, and if he kills somebody with A3, he gets cooldown reset on A2, which is kind of nice. Now, I wish they would have given him AoE or some kind of survivability on his passive. That might have actually made Mountain King usable in PvP. But let's go with what we have. Now, according to the rules of competition, we need to do 1 refresh, and we can't fight any of these 3-man teams, but probably we're not gonna see them after reset. Okay, so here we go. Now, my prediction is that with these champions, with their buffs and with the gear that I have, I'm probably gonna get around 10 wins out of 10 in 5 minutes. Now, what is your guys' prediction? Don't cheat, don't go forward. Let me know in the comments how many victories will I get out of 10. And here we go. I leave that because I might make another video later, and maybe I want to be able to see that message. Okay, let's go. Let's see how good we are in this meta. 10 wins out of 10 for sure. Wait. Okay, fuck. I had to make a cut there. I accidentally went with the default team that I was using on Plat Reset and not the shiny new team that I am going with for the video, but let's go. 10 wins out of 10 for sure. It's gonna go better than on Classic Arena Reset earlier today with the new OP champions that I have. Okay, so A2 is lockout, A3 is the buff strip. No books on him, but it's kind of, you know, not terrible skill. I'm sure in maybe Faction Wars it could be borderline usable depending on your account. Now, this is kind of tricky because the enemy actually has like mythic champions here, which we obviously can't beat. Both Galatir and Nice are basically immune to death, and we can't kill them in 1 hit, so it's gonna be hard to beat this guy against like an actual team, sadly. They have kind of good passives. Yeah, the passive broke right there. Okay, kind of close. Maybe Mountain King can still take the win at the end. I'm not sure. Okay, unlucky. Let's move on the next battle. Surely all of the rest of the battles are gonna be wins. Let's go. Okay, Mountain King resisted the lockout. That's kind of nice. Was Wait, I'm thinking about the affinities. That was not like weak hit, that was just a straight resist. Now we're actually locked out though, so with the with the debuff, so the auto didn't really matter there. Damn, I guess having Carnage, which is a mythic champion, is maybe slightly stronger than Mountain King even after the buff. Now, moving on to the third fight. Don't worry, I'm gonna do every single fight. We're gonna make it all the way to the end. I'm not memeing around here. This is super serial. Just like Al Gore was in the South Park episode, if anybody knows what I'm talking about. Nice, we can actually use the Hakkorhn skills and heal everybody to full and get some immunity out here. Okay, can we actually kill Embrys? Embrys is kind of bane of my existence. Not being out of the game for a while, I don't have him. He destroys me, my go second teams. I really need to get him so that my enemies can't pick him, but in the meantime I'm kind of getting destroyed by every Embrys that I ever meet in live arena. Okay, that was kind of close one. I almost won it, but not this time. Let me just double check we don't do dupe battles. Okay, that was against Quadi. Now we're going against damn, that's a hard name. Fymrungsi. Shout out to Fymrungsi. Surely this team is easy enough. I mean, Odin, Speed Booster, Marius and Carnage. I mean, what can they do outside of seizing me, block reviving me, removing all of my buffs and, you know, locking me out 3 different ways and block reviving me 2 different ways, okay? We got a turn there, we got a kill, nice. That counts as a win almost, you know, not quite, but we almost got a win. This looks a little bit tougher than the last one, but there's always a chance. I mean, you know, Grixia is kind of a tough enemy, but, you know, Smashlord was buffed, so maybe that is good enough for the win. Make your bets in the comments before the battle ends. Maybe I should just stop autoing and actually go, you know, full manual, but yeah, I'm not sure how much difference it's gonna make. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the idea of PvP competitions, but, you know, these were the parameters of the competition. I don't want to go with like go down to gold 1 and, you know, fight some non-existent teams. I'm kind of, you know, keeping it real here, making maybe a point, you know, potentially, like allegedly. Like, I mean, you could say that I'm super serious and I'm getting kind of unlucky, but I could also be making a point here possibly about power creep in the game and, you know, some champions needing nerfs, as I've always advocated from like years and years ago, that buffs are good, everybody loves buffs, you know, there's so many champions in this game that are useless, but on occasion there is some champions, like, you know, I don't want to say any specific ones, but let's say Mariska or Fabian, that might potentially be too good in the game, and they might, you know, remove a lot of fun out of the game because you can't really strategize or use all the champions and tools available, and everything revolves around couple champions that are too strong, and only way you can beat them is be one of them, and there's no like, you can't do some kind of Gala meme strategy that was, you know, viable years ago. This kind of thing is maybe not good enough against mythic champions or something special like Fabian or Armans, let's say. Kind of Marius too, to be fair. Siphi is crazy good, but she is kind of on the tier that there is ways to handle her or deal with her, let's say. some of these other ones, like Marius going before you, what can you do? I mean, he hits 3 times and he's gonna remove all of your buffs and, you know, you're gonna die. If you don't go first, then you lose. With like few exceptions, like maybe you have something like Nice that is unkillable, and if you kill it, then it switches the form, kills everybody in your enemy team or your team, and then revives all of his teammates. I mean, there is some champions like that. Maybe Galatir, that is literally you can't kill him with the passive. That could also deal with Marius, but most champions can't really take that kind of heat. It's gonna get rid of the stone skin, and it's impossible to build your nukers in resistance. You know, reaction is not gonna make you survive that. Neither is stone skin, and there is not really many options to deal with that kind of assault as a go second team. Obviously, there is gonna be differences between fast and slow accounts, and if Plarium wants it to be so that going first is, you know, a win condition, and if you go first you will automatically win, then I think the game balance is great. But to be fair, it's not always been like this. There used to be a lot more variation in the game, in the plat resets from past, and including co-second teams. There has been times where speed wasn't meta. It used to go kind of back and forth, but for maybe last 2 years it's kind of been stuck on the same setting, that there's basically no way to deal with speed teams. There's always, you know, maybe you can counter like one specific champions when you build your team around it. You know, there is exceptions of course, but basically going first is always a win condition, and there's no way that you can survive it outside of, you know, some champions that should be nerfed, like Siegfried or Galatir, you know, what else was there? Maritska. What was the one that I was complaining about before? Yeah, Nice, of course. Nice, as you know, is the most OP nuker in the game. Okay, last guy was Chingo. So the final fight is Chama, as in, you know, the saying that what's his name, Alex Pereira always say. By the way, I was hanging out in the pub last weekend, and there was an Irish guy visiting Finland, and we were kind of chatting up for maybe like 2 or 3 hours straight. He was super into MMA. He couldn't he was non-stop talking about Conor McGregor, of course, since he's Irish. And second thing he was talking about was Pereira. He was a big Pereira fan, and he had just had a fight and gotten his revenge against I forgot the guy's name. The Russian guy that he lost to, or Dagestani guy. So good for Pereira. And I think that concludes our competition. Was kind of close. I was kind of, you know, going with the mindset that I will probably win every single fight with the buff champions that are up to par with the meta. I didn't quite reach the threshold, but I think, you know, all that matters that I tried and I did my best. So that's it. Have a nice day. Have a fun day, and see ya.